this guest that we have on plays a huge part of my recovery story. We're glad to have him on. He's meant a lot to me over the years. And we're trying to bring awareness and spread the word from a wellness unit perspective, right? And so would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, David Kennington. I'm glad to be on the podcast with you guys. Thanks for having me here. I've been around for a while. I've been in the field of psychology, psychotherapy for about 38 years, 19 years with my current agency, where I've been just really blessed to be a part of a really established officer wellness program. I've been there. This is my 19th year. The program, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, is getting ready to celebrate its 40th anniversary. So, yeah.
You said how many years? 39?
I mean, I've been working in counseling, training, trauma for.
What made you want to get into that field? What was the motivating factor?
Man, great question. In high school, I had an English teacher, my junior year in high school, and she said, "I want you to take my psychology class your senior year as an elective." And I just laughed at her, and I'm like, no, back then I was pretty good in basketball, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm getting ready to go on this journey, and basketball is going to take me. And she goes, I think you'd be good at it. And so I took an elective in psychology and just fell in love with it.
That's awesome.
As a 17-year-old, and knew I wanted to major in it. Had no clue what I wanted to do when I was in college, but I've worked in psychiatric hospitals. I've worked in community mental health. I've worked with victims of domestic violence and sexual violence, awesome. And just stumbled into this. I mean, it's a I think God led me here. Believe it or not, I think
kind of found you.
Absolutely. And so in 2007, I applied for and have been with the department for, again, 19 years.
So 19 years at your agency. You said you just kind of fell into it. God led you there. How can you kind of elaborate on that? How did that end up?
Yeah, I was in private practice. I love to tell this story. I was in private practice. Had an office on Music Row with a couple other guys. Oh, yeah. Had an office out in Lebanon, Tennessee as well. And I was doing well. I was making money. I was enjoying it, and my wife and I were just chilling one night in front of the TV, and I was flipping channels. This is going to date me, right?
Yeah.
But back then, there was this public access channel, and it was rolling, it would roll the weather or local events, and it said this department was looking for a crisis counselor. I was like, what is that? And I made a call, and I mean, again, I had no idea that police departments even had officer wellness programs.
Well, probably a lot of them didn't at that time.
Correct. And we'll get into this, but I love to tell this. There's 19,000 police departments, I think. So give or take across the country, big departments, little departments. By far, most do not have established wellness programs.
Even today.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I've ran into that a bunch where, you got Houston, who's been doing 25 years.
Yeah.
Dallas, Fort Worth, they're just now starting. And to me, that's, we talked about in the last one, but that's crazy.
And it's,
it is just insane.
It's like a corporation not having an HR department. Yeah. What are we doing?
That's a good analogy, yeah.
So what do you think one of your hardest things to overcome with first, with officers?
Absolutely, relationships, right? Just having that buy-in. Look, the department I work at, it's 2,000 employees, 1,500 sworn. I remember early on coming in, I'm like, I can't wait for this. But you're going to get people that embrace it, but you're going to get a lot of people that are like, hell no, I don't want to be a part of that. There's such, we know this, right? There's such a stigma. Yeah. Who can I trust if I go up there? I remember early on going out to the training academy, and you guys have obviously been through that and know what that's like, but to go out there and try to build these relationships and the resistance that you feel.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember there was a couple of people, I won't say them by name, but they were so great to me. They pulled me aside. They said, look, I can tell that you're passionate. I can tell that you care about these men, but you have no idea what you're up against.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Who doesn't want wellness? But yeah, so that's, Scott, I think that's the overcoming obstacles, barriers, stigma. I have a really good friend who's on the SWAT team, and he told me like the first couple of times that I was at the academy, or the couple of times he saw me in service, he was like, "What is this guy doing? What's this guy doing?" And he said, "But every time I saw you, I was like, I think this guy cares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy might be quirky or weird or whatever, but this guy cares." And so,
Very genuine for sure. You, I think I remember you telling me a story once, and correct me if this is incorrect. You told me that when you were in private practice, that you had a client that was an officer at the department you now work at, and then when you moved over to the new department,
you remember this story.
Yeah, it was years ago. I think you told me, but you told them, like, you were excited. Hey, I'm going to be at your agency now. Your insurance doesn't have to cover this. And they actually stopped being your client because they were afraid of the repercussions from the department.
You know what's amazing? There were two different guys. There were two cops that were seeing me at Music Row, and you nailed it. I was so excited. Like, hey man, the work that we've been doing is going to continue, but now you don't have to pay me. And they both looked at me and said, "You need to find me somewhere else to go."
Yeah.
That was one of those light bulb moments. Like, what?
Yeah.
Why? It's still me. Like,
Yeah.
why are we not?
It's
Why are
the
you not?
exact same thing. It's free now, though.
But he was like, "Nope, I don't trust this person. I don't." And he was naming chiefs and deputy chiefs, and sadly, he was naming the director of our wellness program at the time. And he was like, "I don't trust her." And I was like, "Okay."
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to treatment for the first time, and one of my thoughts was, when I get back, no one's going to want to work with me, no one's going to trust me, and I tell the story all the time. When I came back, I got a bunch of phone calls, and it wasn't that. It was, "Hey, where did you go? What's going on?" So, in the reality of it, that's really something we do to ourselves, you know. But as we do it more and more officers get help, you know, that kind of thing. But we just have to get away from the stigma.
Right.
So you go to the academy, especially like in the beginning of your career, and you're trying to advocate for the wellness program. You're trying to get the word out there. You're trying to encourage people to seek help if they need it. What could you, like, in your experience, what would you say are some of the symptoms that people may recognize in themselves? Because I know for myself, for a long time, I didn't even know I needed help, you know? So if someone had sat me down and pointed out, or just told me a list of the things to look for, maybe I would have gotten help sooner, because I would have been like, well, I wonder if that's a thing, you know? Like, I remember, for instance, I remember after one critical incident, a wellness, whoever it was from the wellness section that came out to talk to us, they gave us kind of like a list of things to look for in the upcoming days, and they gave us advice. They said, like, don't change your routine. Right. So, like, if you normally drink, he actually said, don't not drink tonight.
Yeah.
If you don't normally drink, don't drink tonight. If you normally work out, go work out. If you don't work out normally, don't. So he was, you know, like, the routine was very important. And then he listed those symptoms, and I remember I started paying attention and looking for those things then. So what are some of those things that you could, like, just generally throw out there for people who may watch this, who maybe they didn't just go through a critical incident, but they're going through their career, and maybe something you say will kind of be like a light bulb moment for them?
Yeah, man, great question. There's a couple of things that I look for. One of the first things I look for is your sleep. I look at that. Like, is your sleep disrupted? Are you not getting quality sleep? Are you waking up? Are you having nightmares? Are you having dreams? We know that intrusive thoughts and dreams can be an indicator of PTSD or PTSI. Changes in appetite. If you're in a relationship, man, it's usually that partner or spouse that'll pick up on things too. And I encourage people, like, you know, pay attention to your spouse. If your partner or your spouse is telling you, hey, you're acting weird or different, or something's changed, listen to them. I think mood is a big one too, right? Like, it increased, and now I'm kind of going through some PTSD things, but like, have your thoughts changed? Are your emotions changing? Are you more anxious? Are you finding yourself withdrawing? Those could be indicators. The hypervigilance is a really big one, right? Like, you start, like, you're hyper startled, hyper vigilant. And again, all those are signs of PTSD. And again, guys, we know this too. Like, you're starting to drink more, or you're withdrawing. in my 19 years at my current position with couples, one of the things I hear a lot is they'll say like you change, like you come home and I hear this used to. You used to come home and we would go on a date night. We'd go hit Mexican food, or we'd go on a date, or you used to come home and you would be, you'd want to hang out with the kids or the guys, and now you come home and you kind of withdraw into your couch or your room. And so there's those behavioral changes, there's the emotional changes, and trauma hits you guys, man. Trauma absolutely. I read something the other day, and there's so many studies, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. There's so many wonderful people out there who do all the research. That's not me. So, but there's really cool studies that say in a career in law enforcement that you will experience 200, 300, 400, sometimes 600 traumatic events, whereas a civilian like me, maybe a couple. And so I read something the other day. It was really cool. It said on average, law enforcement will have 200% more traumatic events. Are you 200% more equipped to deal with it?
Yeah.
And the answer, of course, is no. We don't. I mean, we go out to the academy and we talk to you guys, and we talk to you after there's been a critical incident. But how do you get to that level where you're truly equipped, able to handle that? And so it's an ongoing thing, right? It's ongoing.
So if someone comes in to the wellness unit, I know part of what people worry about is reporting to the administration. So can you speak to what's confidential, what's not confidential, and that kind of thing? Because I really think that holds a lot of guys back.
Yeah. I can tell you in our department, there's a couple of things. Like after a critical incident, chain of command, sergeants, you guys know this, supervisors can mandate for a debriefing. The only thing we can report after a debriefing is, hey, did your guys show up? And did they participate? Two things, attendance and participation. Same thing goes when somebody is mandated for counseling. It's a very small percentage in our department. Less than probably 5% of the people who show up for counseling have been mandated. And that's all we can do. And I can look at both of you and look at anybody and say, in my 19 years, I've only had one deputy chief who pushed on that. And this deputy chief said, he was asking me questions like, hey, what's going on with this guy? And I said, hey, chief, he's showing up, he's participating, we're on track, everything looks good. And he goes, well, is he addressing these issues? And I said, chief, I can't tell you that. He said, well, I can compel you to tell me. And I said, no, sir, you can't. I really answer to a higher power in God, but also answer to a higher power, which is the Tennessee Board of License. Yeah. And I said, you can't do that. That was the only time I didn't obviously give him information. That chief's no longer with my department, not because of that. But it's just I think we're in a world now where most people get that.
For sure. You threw out the 200% number. That's one of the things I really am fascinated with is those studies, and I've done a lot of the research too. And it's hard because everyone, some people may look at those studies and discredit them because there's so many discrepancies. Like some say they go up to 900
I've seen that
traumatic events.
Yeah.
And most of that is because it really just depends where you do the survey. If I survey someone who works in a small little town, they're not going to experience. But if I
love that.
Interview someone that works in New York City, they're probably going to have a lot of traumatic experiences. So that number can vary. But what's scary is one of the numbers, it ends up being 15,000% more. 15,000% more traumatic events than your neighbor. You know what I mean? And that,
it's incredible.
It's undeniable that's going to take a toll on people. Just from the one thing I like to talk about is the cortisol alone. Just the cortisol alone that you're having dumped into your body, 15,000% more than your neighbor. Let alone the PTSD, the PTSI. And that's actually something I was hoping you could touch on as well for a lot of people, because people have asked me that before. They're like, what is PTSI? Could you kind of go into that, talk about what it is and the difference between the actual syndrome?
I mean, obviously, we can all look this up. Like PTSD is a clinical disorder. Yeah. You have to have the symptomology. You've been exposed to a life or death situation, so you have the trauma. Obviously, you're checking those criteria, which are you're having recurring you're dreaming about it, you're thinking about intrusive thoughts. You have the change in your thinking, you have your change in your emotions, you have the hypervigilance. You have an avoidance, like you want to stay away from certain stimuli that remind you of that. And then you break down in functioning. And that's when when you start breaking down in your ability to function in relationships, socially, and work, and then it persists for 30 days. Is PTSD prevalent in law enforcement? Absolutely. And you've read those studies. The studies on that vary too. Yeah. But I like to focus on PTSI, which is the post-traumatic stress injury, because the studies there show that if you work in law enforcement, you're going to get it. It's like the football player on your favorite team who's a running back, and they carry the ball 15, 20 times a game over the course of an NFL season. They're going to get nicked up. They're going to get banged up. They're going to be like at the end of the season, they're going to be hurt, and that's what happens. You guys know that. You work child death or sex crimes or just patrol in general. And think about those guys that are CSI or homicide, or I've got some good friends in our department that work child death. That's all they see. Yeah. And it breaks you down. So tons of research on PTSD, tons of research on PTSI, but we know both are prevalent. And I like that you brought it up. They both, your body doesn't know, like when you're talking about cortisol dumps or the sleep impact, or like your body's like, well, this is PTSI, this is not PTSI. Your body still, you absorb that. Always, I'm going to date myself again. I love the scene from The Green Mile. Yeah, when John Coffey is standing over the warden's wife and she's dying, and he breathes the cancer into her, and she lives. And he like collapses because he just took all that poison into him. That's what you guys do. That's what you guys see, the worst of the worst, and you breathe it in, you take it in, and we wonder why people are.
Yeah, and you talk about like everything. How do we go home and tell our family what we just saw? Yeah. I can't tell my wife about a dead child. Right. And so I hold that in, and I hold that in. Then I deal with it with alcohol, and then it explodes. Right. You know. Yeah. Because even just like with substance abuse, that was my answer. That was my solution. So I had to really dive deep into therapy, you know, EMDR, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, you found the resources. There are people out there, whether you're in a big town, a small town, you have to find those resources because they're there.
So when guys come back, if they get treatment or whatever, what is your department doing as far as putting back to work? What do they, what do they do there?
Yeah. Are you talking about like treatment for alcohol? They're going, yeah.
We'll say a 30-day treatment for substance abuse.
Yeah. Man, I wish I could tell you that it's 100% consistent all the time, and I'd be lying to you and the folks that are tuning in today. I think there's some outstanding folks in our department that are very sensitive, supportive, and when people come back, they're like, all right, like we trust you, David. We trust that you've got the report from whatever program they were in, and we're going to ease them back in. But now and then you get somebody that's like, is this legit? So I would like to think we're leaps and bounds where we were 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5. I do. I think we've got some people in place that are really trying to recognize this. For the most part, I feel supported. I do. I think we've had a mayor, we've had chiefs that have supported what we're doing. But what you brought up, Scott, is so critical because if you have somebody coming back from a program and you're like, let me dig into this a little bit. We know what's going to happen now, right? No one else is going to go, right? All it takes is one person to poison that well.
Yeah, because people are hesitant to go get help to begin with.
Absolutely.
Especially in this career.
Absolutely. We have great folks in HR. The HR folks get it. They get that, like the HIPAA, the privacy, and I love those folks. My direct chain of command, I think they get it, and they're gonna they take this seriously. So,
oh yeah, that you mentioned HIPAA and the lack of like understanding. Everyone knows what HIPAA is. I think maybe there's people that don't, but it's amazing to me how many people still don't fully think of it or don't actually comprehend it. I'll give you an example. This is years ago. I don't know if this person still works at the agency or not, but I was exposed to what's the one that you cough? It's a respiratory disease. Tuberculosis. Yes. Okay.
Did you get that in the flood?
I was exposed to tuberculosis. It wasn't the flood. I was exposed to tuberculosis from an arrest, and everyone that was involved in that arrest were. And it was a significant exposure, enough where we actually had to do paperwork on it. We had to go get TB tests and everything. And, I don't know if this is still the same process with TB tests, but back in 2010 or whatever year it was, we had to get a test, and then we had to go back, like over an extended period of time, we had to go back and get tested again. So it was like a baseline and then another one. Well, a bunch of us forgot to go get the second test, right? And HIPAA wasn't violated by the person who initiated the reminder, like, hey, these officers need to go get tested. But the person that they sent that to then blasted it to the whole precinct, like the whole precinct command staff. So all sergeants and lieutenants and everything. And it was like, these people need to go. Do that. Yeah, and I didn't care. It was just the TB test, but I remember someone made a big deal about that, and it was just like, what are you doing, dude? You can't just send that on an email to the whole department.
Great, and that's a great point, man. Like education, right? Yeah. Educating, because I don't expect our chiefs, deputy chiefs, commanders, I don't expect them to all understand what we're doing. Yeah. So awareness, education. I do like that we have the opportunity more so than ever to talk to new supervisors. Mm-hmm. And to go back to the beginning, we get 10 hours in the training academy to talk about PTSD and suicide prevention and all the things like anger management, stress management, resiliency. And then we get to meet with the new supervisors. Then we get to the in-service. Can I tell who's paying attention and who's not? Look, we've all kind of checked out during in-service training. Yeah. But I don't think you can have too much education and awareness so that we're on the same page.
But like in-service and stuff like classes, those were the things that started to get in my head. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to say anything, but that's where it started, until it came to the point where I didn't care. Honestly, didn't care about my job anymore. All I wanted to do was get sober, be better, So yeah, it's a crazy thing for sure.
Yeah.
How's it affected you? I've always wondered that.
Good question. Good question.
If we receive, we'll go down to the lower number just to be conservative. If I receive 200% more cortisol in my body and I'm experiencing 200% more traumatic events than my neighbor, and you have a bunch of us coming in talking to you and just dumping all that on you. Yeah. I know you're not experiencing it, but it seems like you might almost live it vicariously.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me this question because I've been doing some digging into the different types of trauma. So there's acute trauma, which is a one-time thing, right? Anybody can have an acute trauma, horrible car crash, horrible scene. There's the cumulative chronic trauma, which you guys have. Chronic trauma, day in and day out. Yeah. Dead bodies, horrible crashes, murder scenes. There's vicarious trauma, which y'all can get too. Y'all can, you can hear about something that happened on the north side of town but vicarious trauma, there's been a couple of big events in my career. We know that the worst days are the line of duty deaths, significant injuries from officer involved shootings. We've had a couple of school shootings in my department, and I'm glad you brought that up, Stephen, because somebody said, hey, there was a school shooting, and each one of those people came in and told their story, their vantage point, and now they have one story. They have a horrible day of carrying children or seeing horrific things, but now you've got it. Great question.
Yeah, it's like you're seeing it's almost like watching a movie and you're seeing it from every character's perspective.
So vicarious trauma is real. There's times I take really good care of myself. Mm-hmm. There's times I don't. I'm going to be honest with that. I have to recognize that. I like what you brought up, Scott. I don't want to go home and tell my wife, hey, I was at home for Christmas. My mom was like, hey, tell me about, and she was bringing up a critical incident that was national news. I was like, Mom, you don't want to hear that. My wife and I, we've been married 20, 25 years. She knows that. But great question. What do you do with that? I have to be aware of that. I got to try to move. I got to try to stay connected with people. There's a spiritual connection to that. Staying in the Word, staying close to my friends. I work in a team. I've got incredible people around me. I have a team of 15, 16 people, chaplains, other counselors, sworn. We have a lieutenant, a couple of sergeants, an officer. We can kind of debrief each other
Yeah.
while protecting personal information. We don't go in and go, hey, you're not going to believe what this guy said.
Yeah.
Right.
But we can go, holy crap, that was tough. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. One thing I've experienced is like, if you're the one that helps everybody, no one checks on you.
Right.
And
Right.
so you take on all these problems that aren't yours, but you've got to take them on to help these guys out. And there's no release for us on that either.
Right.
And then something happens and it's just like, I wish somebody had called me, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I know we do a lot of stuff with guys trying to get, just talking with them. But yeah.
Yeah.
Our last guest, she worded it in a way that I had never heard before, and I thought it made a lot of sense. It was very vivid. She described the trauma as evil, which it is, but she described it as like an evil disease that just like infected her and her family and just kept spreading to the next person. And that's kind of like what I'm picturing, like people in your position, like what's happening. They're just constantly, that Green Mile image that you gave, like just absorbing all that. I could see that taking a toll, and I can also see
Heavy.
it, how do I say this politely, making some people less effective in their position, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense. Like
Oh,
not
absolutely.
all therapists are created equal. I've had a bunch over the years, and there have been some where I can just tell like that they're doing their job, but there's some where I feel like a connection with. I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah.
Other than like they actually are hearing what I'm saying. They're empathetic and they're invested in my recovery. Whereas some, it's literally just like, all right, it's been 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Gotta go.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
That's fair.
I think I heard a good therapist has a therapist. So they
I
could
do. I do.
download, yeah.
I've got somebody that I check. I'm glad you brought that up.
And I don't mean that they're like, I hope none of my previous therapists are like, is he talking about me? I don't mean that in a negative way. I think that seems like natural. Like, so for me in my line of work, as I started to spiral, like I started to withdraw, I became jaded at work, and I started to struggle experiencing joy. That was kind of like the eye-opening moment for me when I finally had that light bulb. Holy crap, I don't enjoy anything anymore. I could see that like being a self-defense mechanism. So if you're not like doing what you're talking about, like
Right.
staying on top of it,
Yep.
being like self-aware,
Yep.
you can become jaded in a self-defense mechanism way and not even realize it, and certainly not mean to be that way,
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'll share this. Like, I know last year was a rough year for me personally. I lost my dad. I had a younger son who was going through some things, and I could feel it. I could feel in sessions like not being emotionally present. Like, and you pick up on that. You know what that feels like, and I know what that feels like to sit with somebody and be empathic. And my wife was like, "Hey, do you know that you're like drinking a beer every day?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just drinking a beer every day." And she's like, "You normally drink a beer on the weekend. You're drinking a beer every day." And I was like, "Am I?"
Guilty.
Yeah, right. And like and then so now what's my choice? I can say, "Oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about," or I can go, "Maybe she's right." And she's like, "On the weekends, you're napping a lot. You take a nap," and I'm like, "Am I?" And I was starting to kind of withdraw, and I'm like, "Man, what am I going to do with this?" Went and saw my therapist. I talked to my director, who's incredible. She's like, "Hey, take some time off here.
Yeah.
Get your head right. We got you. Maybe not take on some really tough cases right now. Like maybe not take on cases where somebody's lost their parent, like because you're not in a position to help them right now."
Ooh, yeah.
So, man, that's a great question you brought up. And again, we're fortunate that we've got 8 therapists in our wellness program.
Very good.
And
Very good.
if we're we'll find the right person for you.
What's been your toughest moment in your position?
Oh, wow.
Especially working with police.
Yeah.
God help you.
I tell people this. It's almost like a paradox. Like when I got there, I knew that I needed to build relationships. You have to build relationships because we can put a sign out in front of our building and go, "Hey, this is the police counseling center. We're going to help." But you have to get to know people. And we've learned a lot in 20 years. You do have to build from the top down, but you got to build from the bottom up. And I say bottom, the training academy, the trainees that come in, the frontline supervisors, you better build those relationships. The paradox for me is you start building close relationships. And while cops aren't my buddies, man, we get tight. I get close with them. Yeah. And then you know where I'm going with this, Stephen. What happens when there's a line of duty death? What happens when one of them is being treated unfairly? And I know it, and I can see it. I'm like, this is wrong. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that in my 19 years, I haven't seen people get messed over, because they have.
Yeah.
And there's that boundary of like, man, this is my guy or this is my girl. And you see the pain they're going through, whether it's a physical pain, whether, last year we lost 2 people, just dropped dead of heart attack. That's hard. It's hard to see that pain. So again, having a check and balance on that when I go home at night, like, oh boy, trying to stay again in the Word, trying to stay connected to my kids and my spouse. So we're not robots, man. I guess you made a great point. When I was in private practice, I think I was pretty good back in the day in private practice, but I would see that person, they would go home, I would go home, and I wouldn't think about them until the next week. That's not what happens in a police department.
Yeah.
I'd say most guys that come in, there's a trust factor, so they hold things back. Mm-hmm. And it's like you're talking about like having a beer a night. What do you do after that? Mm-hmm. And they have to be confident that they can come in, or they got to be in a position where they say, whatever happens, mm-hmm. I didn't help. Mm-hmm. Because the people who were affected by me were not the department. It was my family.
Right.
Was I around? Yes. Was I the best father? No. And most days I did the best I could. Mm-hmm. But we don't want that anymore. We want guys. We need to normalize this. Guys coming in to get help. Mm-hmm. I was speaking the other day, and I said, "How many of you have almost asked for help?" Everyone raised their hand.
Wow.
And it's like, so or I don't know. I think there's a big fear behind it of the stigma.
Yeah.
But being on this side of it, I don't feel it. But that's what we think.
What do you guys think is the fear? Like if you reach out for help and you ask for help,
being seen as weak.
Okay.
Like for me, it was like I was put on the entry team, so these guys aren't going to follow me. They're not going to trust me. And then I hear in my head from childhood, "Suck it up, deal with it."
Yep.
And so all that says to me is shut your mouth, don't say anything, and try to get through it the best you can.
Yep.
Because that's what we're taught as guys.
Yep.
Stop crying. I'll give you something to cry about.
I got that message from my dad.
I'm not saying my childhood was terrible, but that's just how you're raised. I was raised by a police officer, and my grandfather was a World War II veteran.
Yep.
Very type A family. Every single person pretty much I looked up to was an alcoholic.
Yep.
And I can't say that I'm an alcoholic because of the department, because before that, but it really didn't help.
Right.
And it became my way to get through it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
that's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and then we get help. It's like, okay, now I got to do therapy. I didn't believe in any of that therapy stuff, and I sure didn't believe in EMDR. Yeah. And once I did it, I was hooked on it because it worked.
Yeah.
And this is what I figured: if it's my idea, it's a bad idea. Listen to somebody else, do what you're told to do, and when I did that, my life got better.
Good. I love hearing that.
And we talked to I know me and him both talked to a lot of officers about it.
Yeah.
I think denial is a big part of it too. To answer your question, for me, that's what it was. Have you seen the movie Deepwater Horizon? Is that the name of it?
About the BP oil spill?
Yep, the oil spill one. Yeah. There's a line in there where Kurt Russell he uses his grandfather as an analogy. He talks about how his grandfather never went to the dentist his whole life because he didn't want to find out what was wrong with him. He didn't want to go to the dentist for the dentist to tell him everything that was wrong with him.
Wow.
And I think that's a big part of it for a lot of people.
Sense.
For me, it definitely was. I was
start
just in denial.
Unpeeling the onion, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh my gosh, look what's in here. And then you have to either do something about it, or now you got to cover it up with alcohol or whatever.
Yeah, I asked a group the other day, like, if you had an officer in serious trouble, gunfight, whatever, what would you guys do to get to him? And the answer is anything. Mm-hmm. And then I say, okay, what if you know your partner's drinking too much? Or he's in depression? What then? And the answer is this: we make excuses for him. Mm-hmm. We don't call him out. We say, oh, he's done this before, he'll be okay. And a lot of that eventually is fatal. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's crazy to me.
Man, I was going to work this in, and you just gave me the opening. Man, there's been so many people that have mentored me and our department. I can brag up that we're 40 years into this. Do we have all the answers? Of course not. But we have learned from San Diego, from Indianapolis, their departments. And I remember one of my counterparts in Indianapolis had a great line. He said, you know, two cops go into a bar and they're both dealing with their stuff. They both have seen stuff, they're going through stuff, and they're sitting at the bar and they're drinking. And neither one wants to look at the other guy and go, hey, because once you do that, once you call somebody on it, they're going to call you on it. So they sit there and just keep drinking their beers. Like, you don't want to bring it up. It's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
But if I call you on your shit, then you're going to call me on my shit.
Yeah.
And now the shit's out. Yeah. Sorry for language on your podcast.
Oh, no. We cuss all the fucking time. That's fine. You said something a few minutes ago that I wanted to touch on. You mentioned you saw people get screwed by their administration. So what I find interesting about that is not necessarily, I don't want to focus on the fact that the people got screwed, because discipline needs to happen when people make mistakes, but I find it kind of almost like I feel like it's correlated, right? The mental health part with it. So if if a department doesn't have a wellness section, or the wellness section isn't allowed to do what it needs to do to further the mission, you end up having officers who don't get the help that they need. So what will end up happening? They're going to make more mistakes. They're going to get themselves in trouble. You've got officers who are dealing with stuff that they're not getting help for. I'll use myself as an example, just what I felt when I was going through and spiraling. I couldn't experience joy. I was having nightmares, having flashbacks. If I'm not getting help, what are people going to do? They're going to mask that. Like, if I can't experience joy normally, I'm going to, like, some people are going to drink, some people are going to gamble, some people are going to have sex addiction, some people are going to be shopaholics. They're going to find an outlet. And then they're going to make mistakes. They're going to get themselves in trouble. And then the department hammers them, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy shit, we just kind of set these people up to fail. Didn't we?
I agree
Not
with
intentionally. No one's doing it intentionally. But if we don't, like, if we did some work on the front end, we could, and even if you don't give a shit about the officers, you could save the department liability. If that's all you care about. And if that's what it takes to get departments to do it, then that's fine. I don't care what your motivation is. If it's just to save the city money, save the department embarrassment, then fucking do it.
Why do we look through that lens of like, oh, this person's a problem person? Why do we have that lens instead of a lens like, man, this person has seen a lot of dead people. This person's worked a lot of crime. This person's struggling in a marriage. This person does have an addiction. Man, do you know how many people in our department have addictions? And I love that you ran through them. Yep. Alcohol, sex, gambling, shopping, money. And we know what that does to your brain. Like, if you're sad and you're like apathetic, and all of a sudden you reach onto this thing and it lights your brain up. The dopamine,
all that. It's going to be like heroin.
Yeah. And I'm going to sit here today and tell you there are people in my department that do have that lens, that look through that lens and like, hey, I care. We got to take care of these people. I've worked for multiple chiefs now, as you can imagine, like in at least three off the top of my head, if not more. And like, they're not all the same. Like you said, not all therapists are cut from the same cloth. Not all chiefs, assistant chiefs, and deputy chiefs. And so, is it realistic to think we can get them all on the same page? I'd like to.
I'm really encouraged by how I can get to the chiefs now.
Yeah.
Because I guess they're all what I started working with. But, I have seen a big change in administration chiefs, whatever, that really support these things.
Yes.
And that's really, but like I said earlier, there's some that don't have one. It's crazy, but.
I think we've come a long ways in my department, but I hear horror stories when I'm getting ready to go to New Orleans for a conference, for a wellness conference. I'm going to go to Vegas for a conference. I promise you I'm going to go to the conference. But you hear horror stories like, hey, we don't have that. We don't have a wellness program, or we have deputy chiefs and chiefs that don't give two craps. And so I think my department has come so far in 20 years, 10 years.
It has. So let me ask you, so if someone comes in, they go to treatment, is there something that you guys tell them, okay, when you get back, you'll have to do this, this, and this? Or how does that work?
Great question. Case by case. Sometimes people come back and the powers that be, like they were like, hey. So in our department, you can have what's called a fitness for duty. Okay. And so sometimes if you go out, so person A goes out because of alcohol or whatever, the psychologist may get, and we don't do this. In my department, our psychologists are contract out. That are not in our office. But if you get on that track, and you may have a psychologist say, hey, when Scott gets back from treatment, we need to like make sure he's fit, and we'll run him through a psychological evaluation. That normally does not happen. That is rare. What normally happens is Scott wants to go into treatment. Of course, you got to notify HR or somebody, so they're not going to mark you AWOL. You want to get paid while you're in treatment. Our HR department's been really good about that. Like, hey, go do what you got to do. When you get back, most of the time now in 2026, you come back and you're back to work. I know that wasn't always the case with you. Back in the day.
Yeah. When I got back, I think I went to work the day after I got back. And what I should have done was take a little bit of time for some more therapy, get that set up, get my feet under me before I went back. Because as soon as you go back, you're right back into everybody else's problems.
Nothing's changed there, right? Yeah, nothing's changed. And Scott, you bring something up, like having clear expectations. Mm-hmm. And I still think we're trying to work on that. Like, what is the expectations? What's going to happen? What's not going to happen? Are you gonna drug test me every 6 months, or are you gonna pop me randomly? I mean,
randomly.
Yeah, randomly. Yeah.
Like for me, if I had known all that stuff before I went, it wouldn't have. Because when I came back and I started experiencing things, I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, I feel like, all right, you guys are throwing stuff at me. Mm-hmm. But the whole difference would be tell them up front. Mm-hmm. I never would have minded any kind of alcohol, whatever it is. But I didn't feel, I felt like a suspect. Mm-hmm. And it was, I had a really good career. But now I feel like they're really watching me. They're going to get me,
And would we do that if Scott or Stephen Holland was in a car crash and you had broken your leg and had would we treat you as a suspect? Mm-hmm. If you were physically broken, then why do we do that when you're psychologically, emotionally broken? I mean,
yeah.
Well, you've been at your agency for a very long time, and it sounds like you've seen it evolve for the better. Mm-hmm. They had a program when you got there, which is good because not a lot of places didn't yet, but it sounds like you've seen it improve over the years. So if anyone is watching this that works at a department that doesn't currently have a wellness section, what advice could you give them to help kind of guide them like in that direction?
It takes one person. 40 years ago, we had one person that started our program, and that person was an intern, a counseling intern. 40 years ago, this person saw a need to support law enforcement and families. She started doing ride-alongs. She started offering counseling. She started doing trainings. She got educated. So every department, I believe this, unless you're a department of one, but most departments in this country, you've got one person, I would hope, that cares and it gets that. There are so many great resources. You guys know this now. ICP, there is PERF. There's a lot of places that are big, but I think the ICP has so many good programs. I don't know if you're going to throw my number up at the end of this or before
we can,
this, but man, people can call me. We get calls. I can tell you this. We get calls every month. We got a call. I won't say the cities, but a couple of years ago, we got a call from a major police department with 6,000 sworn on the East Coast. I'm going to leave it at that. This police department had been around over 200 years. They had nothing. Wow. And they came in and said, hey, where do we start? And we're like, let's go. Let's roll. Like, let's help you try to get a peer sport program. Let's help you get the right kind of tools in. So the great news, we don't have to reinvent the wheel right now. I think the last 5 years have truly been sort of like the revolution golden years. Cause we're learning more now than, the resources are out there. So anybody out there, you can throw my number up there. They can call me. We have people do walkthroughs and come shadow us. And we've done that too. I don't want to sit here and act like, again, we've gone to Indianapolis. We've gone to San Diego. We've walked through and hey, what can we, so Louisville PD maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Now they're cooking. They have like an incredible wellness center. They have like
Yes, they do.
Have you been up there?
Yeah.
They have like a gymnasium and counselors and like a physical therapy. Like they are rocking. And so even though we're much older, established wellness program than Louisville is now like, hey, I want that.
Yeah.
And we had our chief go up, and it was awesome. Our chief went up and was like, let's start working on this. Let's try to get this.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to know that you like that whole mentality of you've never arrived, but there's always ways to improve. Just because we've been doing it this
Absolutely
for so long doesn't mean we know everything.
No,
yet, you
not
there's
even
always
close.
ways to get better. That's great.
Let me ask you, is there anything that we haven't asked that you want to get out there for guys?
I think just the normalcy. Like I know there's somebody watching this today that's struggling with depression or anxiety, or they're struggling with again sexual addictions or alcohol, and they probably feel like they're the only person in the world, right? Like what's wrong with me, and why am I not tough enough?
Yeah.
Why can't I soldier? My dad did this, or this guy over here's doing it. Just to understand that like no one is really equipped to see what you guys see. And it's not weakness to say, hey, I need some help here. And again, I love sports. The metaphor of like sometimes you tap your helmet and you go on the sideline and you get some oxygen. Sometimes you go into the tent, and sometimes you just can't. You need to step out of the game for a little bit. It doesn't mean you're weak. Doesn't mean that you're done. Again, like think about all the careers or the things that people do, and so just the exposure. But there's help, right? There's help, and that's what I tell my friends. They're like, "What is that like to be around these men and women?" I'm like, first of all, it's the best job I've ever had. It's amazing. These guys are heroes, but it's so rewarding to see the people that move through it. There's something called post-traumatic growth. I don't know if you guys have looked into that. It's not my area. It's not my area of expertise. So, but it's like knowing that you're going to go through the trauma. It's inevitable. We talk about 200%.
Yeah.
We talk about, and both of you guys have a book. I'm not going to ask you that. This is not my podcast, but both of you guys have a book of first dead body, first child death, first worst horrific car crash, murder, blah, 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 domestic, like you guys have that. But knowing that you can grow from that spiritually, you can grow from that in your relationships, you can learn what helped you through it. There's a current commander in our department, and he told me, he's not the guy that I thought would ever tell me this, but he said, David, I actually kept a book. When I was a rookie, and he goes, I don't know why I did it. He goes, I just started writing down, dead child or bad car crash. And he said, at first, maybe I was keeping it like just to tell war stories. He goes, but what it did for me, I can go back and go, man, that sucked. What helped me through that? How did I get through that? But he's kind of used it like almost like a map or a navigation system. Yeah, compass. I like that. And so, and another thing I would say too is like, man, we've all sinned. We've all made bad choices. We've all fallen on our face. I believe in second chances. We believe in a God that's going to forgive us. And so we see that a lot in our department too. People have made choices, but like your life's not over. Your relationships aren't over. Your time at that department might be over.
Yep.
But you still have a purpose. You still have something. And man, I love what you guys are doing. Again, right here today, just because this right here is just you're loving on other people. You're showing people there's a path. So
You mentioned, I think we focused a lot so far on people who may not realize they need help, right? I think we should talk about the people who know they need help and aren't getting it. So, you talked about that stigma of weakness, which is very true. That's a real stigma. I think there's also one that not everybody realizes or thinks about. There's people that believe that if they there's a difference between an excuse and a reason, right? I think some people don't get help because they think that it's using the PTSD or that school shooting, that traumatic event that I experienced. I'm saying that's an excuse for the behavior that I'm doing. That's a reason. I can blame my alcohol on that. I can blame the fact that I just beat my child on that. I can blame my anger on that.
Yeah.
I can blame the sex addiction, the gambling, whatever it is, on that. And that's not fair to yourself to look at it that way. It's not blaming. It's not an excuse. No one's excusing your behavior. You're not excusing your behavior. You're trying to get better. But if you can't acknowledge the why, then you're not ever
Right.
If you don't treat the disease, you're never going to stop the symptoms.
Right. No, I love that. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Now we're getting into like your self-talk and your belief talk, right? Like,
Absolutely.
Right. That's the whole premise really of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's not the activating event that causes you to have certain emotions. It's our belief system, what we tell ourselves. If you tell yourself, "Oh my God, like I've been through stuff, I've been exposed to stuff, and yeah, I've got PTSI or PTSD, or yeah, I've got depression, I've got alcohol, I'm an alcoholic." I mean, but if your belief system, what you're telling yourself is like, "Hey, man, I'm just trying to do the best I can, and maybe I wasn't the best husband, or maybe I wasn't the best dad." But I'm gonna keep growing. I'm gonna learn from this. So that's a great point, Steve. And I think people sometimes, you've mentioned, there's not just one thing. I'm glad you brought that up. Is there a fear stigma of like, oh, I'm weak, or I'm not, I'm gonna lose my gun, or I'm gonna lose my, yes. Is there a stigma of like, this is gonna now be like an excuse somehow? I think one big thing too is like, it's hard to sit with pain. I've been in therapy. Y'all been in therapy. It's not much fun crying and going through stuff and feeling pain. Now we know that in the end it works. It can take that off of us. But I mean, therapy is often painful, and we as men, but we as people, we want to stay away from pain.
Yeah, my wife never knew me as a police officer.
Yeah.
And so we talk all the time about it. She says, I don't know if you noticed this, but you always talk about the same 4 or 5 calls, and those are the ones that stick with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, and if they come up, you try to get away from the topic and change the subject right away because we don't want to think about it.
No.
And then that's where the thoughts come in. How do I take care of this and all that kind of stuff? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a willingness. You can't fix a problem you don't admit you have.
That's good.
You know what I mean? So you've got to first acknowledge a problem before you can fix it.
Yeah.
Because I've worked with kids before. They're like, how do we get him better? Better from what? He doesn't think he has a problem. So if he doesn't, there's nothing to fix.
Right.
And so it's different for everybody. My bottom was what it was, and others, but from that point, I was able to grow and start my journey of actually getting better. So
Yeah.
and when like what you do, when I was ready, I had people waiting to help me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, what you guys do is just it's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's not just like we've got him treatment. I mean, what you did for my kid, we just being better.
Right.
I was a better officer, less complaints. Yeah. We don't talk talk about it like that. So if someone's got PTSD or depression, citizen complaints. Mm-hmm. Let's get the guy better. That goes away.
Right.
But yeah.
I want to ask you guys a question. How important, in y'all's role, how important is it for a sergeant to know his people, to know the men and women that they supervise? And when I say know, like their lives, their families, their kids, and then second part of that, is it important for the people above you to know you? Like how do we?
Yeah, it absolutely is. When I got promoted, I went back to patrol. I was in the K-9 unit, so I go back to patrol. I will admit I was not good at that in the beginning because I was a little overwhelmed with the new role, learning patrol again, because I hadn't been in patrol in forever. It had been probably, I think it had been a decade at that point. And not only does that amount of time away from a position like that, like make you feel like you've forgotten everything had changed. Like the entire process had changed. Computers, everything was done on the computer now. Yeah. We still hand wrote reports when I was in patrol.
No handy map.
So it was so much to learn. So, and that's, once again, that's not an excuse, But that's definitely a contributing factor of why I was not great at connecting with those officers. And then I'm sad to say, there wasn't a huge culture in patrol where I worked, at least. Everyone wasn't really that close. At least that was my perception on it. And now that would have been my job to try to foster that culture. I realized that. When I moved over to the full-time SWAT team as a sergeant, it was easier because now I'm with guys that I've known longer.
Right.
This is a position that I'm more familiar with. So I feel like I was more successful in doing that then. And I hope the guys that worked directly for me would feel the same way. I hope that I did a good job and that they, that they agree with what I'm saying. But whether or not I succeeded, it is 100% important because I have seen great leaders suck at that. And it does have an effect. I mean, you can be a great leader. You can be a great supervisor in the field and on calls and lead them and take care of them by advocating for them. But if you're missing that layer, like they're going to notice it. And they're still great supervisors, but that's the part that separates them from being the best that they can be, but also the reason that we're having this conversation, identifying those problems. Because if you don't have that connection with them, you're not going to notice it,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Even if you do notice it, what do you do? Do sergeant? Let's say a sergeant. Do they call? Can they call the wellness unit for that person? Can they what kind of process would that be?
I've had 2 calls this week. I had one call from a sergeant, and he said, "Hey, I'm worried about this guy." And the first thing out of his mouth was like, "I don't want to mandate him." I'm like, "All right, go ahead." And he said he's going through some stuff with his wife. He's going through some stuff with his kids. He's got this going on. I'm worried about him. And I said, "Like, how can I help you?" That's the first thing I said. "How can I help you?" And he said, "Well, I want to talk to him." And so we spent some time, like almost like now I'm coaching a little bit, like like sitting this guy down. But what I've learned too is like this particular employee has already caused so many problems. Like now, like we've kind of waited, and now in my department, the mandate word is such a negative word. Like, oh, you're mandated because we mandate people to work extra assignments. We mandate people to work, different events.
So they should call it something else.
Yeah, and then we mandate people to go to counseling.
Yeah,
and so helping him sit down with this guy to say, "Look, I care about you. I am your supervisor. I'm your sergeant, but I care about you." Now, what happens at that point? The person could go, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
I don't. This is BS. I don't want to do this. But your message still has to be consistent. Here are some behaviors I'm concerned about. I do know this about you. I'm not trying to get in your business, but I want you to be well. I need you to be well, and I need you to be able to do your job. Let's talk about some options. And so over the years, like having real, I saw a police psychologist one time talking about like the courageous conversation. And I think that's what you guys are doing. I don't know the title of your podcast, but he talked about how difficult it is to do that, to say, let's, in this moment, in my office or wherever, maybe it's a coffee shop, let's get real. I don't like mandates either, but sometimes that I think that's needed. Like, hey, I want you to go get help. And if we have a gentleman's agreement where you're going, I got you. As long as I know, like, but sometimes I think the department, you do have to say, hey, you're mandated to go to the wellness center. I like what y'all are doing. And I like, how do we promote that across our department and across all departments where there's that line? Like, I don't need to get in your business and know everything about your family and about you and about your kids. But man, I want to know that I know when something's off. I can tell. Like something's, like you talked a lot about being like sad, and like you don't have to have a degree on the wall or a PhD to be able to recognize when people their moods changing, right?
Yeah.
Staying connected. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if guys come in, one of the biggest things too is dropping that shield of, that armor where I want to tell you just enough to make you think I'm getting help.
Yeah.
But I'm going to hold the important stuff
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And in that case, it's still, man, it's like filling that closet hallway and you open it, everything
Yeah.
falls right out.
Yeah.
It seems like the military, for all the faults that I hear the VA has, I'm not saying the VA is perfect by any means, but it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like the military has done a good job in being progressive with dealing with PTSD over the last, I don't know how many years, but it seems like first responders are late to the game. Like we're trying to catch up. And why do you think that is?
I have a couple of theories. Number one, I'm not up to date with everything that military is doing, but I mean the obvious thing is they were having such a significant amount of suicides. It was off the charts, right? Like I mean, I don't know the stats, but like multiple suicides every day, if not in the 20s. When that it was horrific numbers. We know that police suicides are much higher than general population. I think they're like 56, 58% higher general population. Police suicides are horrible.
More of that than killed in the line of duty.
Yeah.
And that's just, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, we didn't know. We know now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big number. It makes me sad.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the quick answer, I think we're reactive. My department, and I think we're blessed, we're fortunate, we're lucky. We haven't had an officer take his or her life since 2016. Could that happen today? It could. It could. And I'm willing to say that it will happen again. Like to think that my department is never going to have a suicide is crazy thought.
Yeah.
But we're now in the 10th year of no suicides. What if we had 3 suicides next week? Like NYPD, I think Houston, Harris County had 4 in 2014. Like in the summer, NYPD had 10 one summer. We're so quick to react to that. One thing I did want to talk about today, and this has been such a long journey, and we're not anywhere close to that, but in 2011 or 2012, and you guys may recognize the story. There was a horrific car crash. It was a family was leaving church. Family pulls out. It's dark, and a deer comes across the road, and the family hits the deer. The deer goes into the back seat, tragically kills a little girl, 9-10-year-old girl, and it was horrific. It was messy. I get a call from a CSI commander captain saying, hey, this is a bad one. And even at that point in my career, I'm like, why is CSI calling? They see every day, right? So the CSI guys come in and they're torn up.
Yeah.
So a couple days after that, one of the CSI guys calls me and says, hey, I'm still seeing this little girl in my dreams. Can I come back? I think I'm effed up. And I'm like, you're not effed up. Come back. He comes back. We have like 2 or 3 follow-ups after that. And he's like, it just helps to talk about it. It helps, That guy's walking out of my office in 2012, and he turns, looks at me, and goes, man, why don't we do this every year? Why don't I just come in once a year and we'll talk? And I was like, that is a great idea. And we didn't call it anything fancy, just like, hey, once a year we'll come in. I called this captain, who I will not say his name, and said, hey, Cap, what do you think about this? What do you think the captain said? 2012. David, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. My men and women in my section see blood, they see death, they see trauma, and he hung up on me.
Good God.
And I went to my director, and she called him the same thing. So fast forward 2014, I'm with the commander. We're at a ICAC conference, and the presenter said, if your department has an ICAC, those men and women every year need to at least once, if not more, have a wellness check. We started it in 2014. What are those big planes in the military? The really big ones that take like 12 minutes to like lift off, like C-130s or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's what our wellness program, our wellness check program, it's just taken forever. So now, and we're not there. But now, if you're in homicide, if you're in SRT, child death, we're getting commanders, captains, sergeants to say, hey, go check in with the wellness team. We're not there. I think we had 250 last year. That number should probably be closer well, if we did everybody, it would be 1,500.
Do you even have enough manpower to?
We don't,
you know?
but we have enough manpower for every specialized division. We could do that. We could do it. I've crunched the numbers. It would be taxing. But what I'm going back to what I said, like instead of being reactive and waiting for,
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah.
let's be proactive and start normalizing. Hey, Scott. Hey, Steven. Let's sit down. Man, how's your family? How you doing? You're not in my office because there's been a critical incident. You're not in my office because you're going through a trauma or you've gotten disciplined. We're just talking. And I do them every week. I love it. It's one of my favorite things.
I was talking to some supervisors, and I said, well, let me ask you this. What if you have an officer killed in the line of duty? What do you do? Well, we investigate it. We see anything that you change. All these go through this big, long process. And I said, okay, what do you do when you have an officer kill himself? And it's dead silence.
Silence.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that secret we don't want to talk about,
Yep.
But that's got to stop.
Yeah.
Because people are dying. And
Absolutely.
it's so, like, I totally respect what you do for sure. It's just so difficult to know that some of these guys are in a position in their head where they think taking their life is the best option.
Yeah.
And it just makes you sad because I've been there.
Yep.
You know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great, we can measure death. Hey, this person, we had 2 last year, heart attacks. This person has died. Their heart has stopped. They're gone. How do we measure people that are in the process of dying? This person's marriage is falling apart. This person is losing. Like, that's what we fail at a lot of times. We can measure certain things. We got 2,000 people in my department. We got 1,500 sworn. How many of them are struggling right now? A bunch.
A lot.
A bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so sad. Like, with our department, you see guys leave and they're dead within 3 years, 4 years. And that's just, we sacrifice way too much to die 4 years after retirement.
Yeah.
It's just, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when everybody looks at it like a finish line. I just got to get to retirement. Like I'm gonna work all this overtime to jack up my pension.
Yeah.
That you're not going to get to enjoy because you're going to be dead.
Sad.
Well, and you still have that stuff in your head, and you lost that identity as being an actor, and it's just it's horrible.
Yep.
You mentioned your agency had a suicide in 2016. How did that affect you, and how did that affect the wellness section?
Yeah. Another good question. We knew the individual. We had been supporting this person. This person was under. It evolved around an extramarital relationship, and there was he had been charged with stalking, had been convicted of stalking, and so he was going to lose his job. And now it goes back to what you said. Now I've lost my marriage. Now I've lost my job. Now I've lost my pension. Lost. And that's the number one factor when you start feeling like you're losing everything. We were supporting him. We'd supported him the night before. So it was devastating. It was devastating to us. I think when we have an officer, again, that's 10 years ago, take his own life. And then we have, I think in the last 2 or 3 years, we've had 3 guys at the end of their career who were at retirement that died of heart attacks or health. I think our department is no different than other departments. We rally in the moment, right? Mm-hmm. Let's take better care of ourselves. Yeah. Let's have heart scans. Let's do suicide prevention. Blah. But it just kind of fades away. It's our job. It's your job. It's my job.
Yeah, it's not a flavor of the week.
Nope. It's our job to keep talking about it. That's one thing that the department's going to have to kick me out the door. I mean, I'm just going to keep talking about it.
But good thing is a lot of people are talking about it,
right?
And it's like I said, it's just, to me, it's so weird who has one and who doesn't. But nowadays, when I reach out to Achieve, they usually hit me right back, and it's incredible. They'll put me in contact with wellness units or whatever.
Yeah.
So the access to them, I've been very impressed with.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you can give to spouses, family members, or friends who may be thinking that their loved one is struggling?
I love that question too. So we're getting better at this too. I don't know if y'all spouses went through it. I don't think your wife knew you. Did your wife go through a family day? Did your wife go through when we had family day?
Did you go through a family day? No.
So it's okay. Like we're getting better at promoting it and putting it on. But I talk about these annual wellness checks that we do within our wellness program. So we have counselors, chaplains, and sworn folks that can meet with you. I encourage from the very beginning, when these men and women graduate, I encourage family wellness checks. And people are like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And I'm still on this idea from a guy in an adjacent county who started this, and he told me about it. Once a month, he sits down with his spouse, his partner. They have kids that are older, like teenagers, and they sit down. And he's like, "Hey," and he's not going to tell them all the gory details, but he's going to sit down and say, "Hey, have you guys noticed any changes in me?" This is hard.
That's brave.
This is really hard and he told me a story one time, like the 12-year-old was like, "Dad, you're watching too much TV or something." I'm like, okay, but he's going to hear everything, and it's a round table. The electronics are off. Come at me, and then he gets a chance to talk too. Like, "Hey, this has been appropriate, right?" Like the dad's not going to share with the 10-year-old, but hey, this has been a tough month.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing is what are you doing?
Yeah.
Connection, conversation, accountability. Because what if your partner looks at you and goes, "You're drinking too much," or you've been angry, or you're closing yourself off? What are you going to do with that? And so I like that. I like the family wellness checks. And I know. Hopefully, you guys know this one too. Like, man, just having that buddy, man. Who's your guy? Most cops I know have that one person. Like, who's your guy that should know your bullshit? That should be able to see when. I don't know. I like that. I like accountability.
But that person needs to have the courage to call them out.
There you go, man. That's it right there.
I had one buddy of mine that I worked with. After I spiraled and everything, he said something like, "A few of us knew you were struggling for a long time, and we just kicked ourselves afterwards. Like, we wished we had just, pulled you aside and said something."
Why? Why do we do that?
Yeah, I wasn't mad at him, but yeah, I mean, that's exactly like, because I don't think, you're talking about their guy, their closest buddy. I've always been kind of an introvert. I've never really been openly like close to people. I was open about going to therapy. I would advocate for people to go to therapy, but I wasn't very I didn't get close to people, But even absent of that, these guys could tell that something was changing in me,
Right. Yeah.
But it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
To pull somebody aside.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there's change at the individual level, which we're talking about, right? Like having us take ownership of our emotions, our behaviors. There's encouraging other people to do that too. But there's also like the culture, right? We could probably have a whole other podcast on the culture and how do you change a culture.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Yeah.
One thing I found this was interesting. Like when I went off to treatment, I came back, I was better. My wife wasn't. Because she didn't have the help that I got. And so it's really, we've done some stuff together because she has to figure out how to deal with me in those times where I'm staring off, thinking about stuff. But yeah, that's one thing. We have to educate because they're the ones that see us all the time. They know. But my 16-year-old, when he was 12, he'd call me out in a second, and because he could see it in me, like me getting angry or whatever it is, and I've got to stop and kind of look at what I'm doing or not doing to figure out what's going on. Because if a 12-year-old can see it, it's pretty bad.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Scott. Like, why do we? And I know you're in a position now where you're addressing some of those things from a professional standpoint. But like, imagine if it's like sending somebody. It's like having a couple, and you send one of you gets to go to your local gym and do cardio and weightlifting and nutrition. And then come back home. If the other person's not doing that, like now you have one person that's growing, one person's healthier, and one person's stagnant. And so that model has been around forever in treatment, right? Like, we'll send this person in treatment. Like, we've got to get the spouse somehow involved.
Me and I've gone to Texas several times. It's a minding the marriage retreat. So it's husbands and wives, first responders. So we went out, we spoke at it, and she really shared a lot of what she has seen in me just from, but I've never had heard of a marriage retreat for police or fire, whatever it is. But I thought it was genius.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are there any other topics you want to talk about? Do you have any other questions for us?
What what's the driving force behind what y'all are doing? I think I know, but I want to hear it from you guys doing these podcasts.
So for me, it's passing the light forward. I struggled for a really long time. I struggled without realizing I was struggling, and then I started to realize I was struggling, but I really don't know, because I can't go back in time and read my own thoughts. I don't know if it was weakness, whether it was pride, whether it was denial. I know partly it was, I guess, all of those things. But I came very close to committing suicide. I remember thinking about it all the time. I would think about it especially when I was driving, and I had a long commute to and from work. So I had a lot of time to think about it. And the events that had to happen for me to get the help, if they hadn't gone the way they did, then I wouldn't have gotten the exact help I needed. But it saved my life. I remember being in rehab and just thanking God for being there, thanking God for being lucky enough and the grace enough to be in the position that I was in, to be at that house, to have had the phone calls made, have had the ideas dropped in my ear, and that I actually reciprocated, because it could have gone the other way easily. I could have been like I was before and just got angry and no, I don't need that. And, just blame everyone else or blame other things. But it felt like a light was shining in the distance, and it guided me out of it. So for me, the motivation is to pass that light forward. Like, I feel like that, like, it put a conviction on me. I need to do something with this. I'm passionate about it. And it felt like not enough people were talking about it. Right. I'm not the first person to talk about it. I know that. But when I got out of rehab, I started doing I didn't really know what to do. I was like, I got to do something. So I just started making little YouTube videos and putting them out there. And I didn't care if anyone watched them. One, it was good for me because I was learning more. Like, I was continuing my education after getting out of rehab, right? So I was learning more about the effects that it was having on me, understanding it. But then when Scott reached out about, hey, you want to do a real podcast with me? It was like, yes. Awesome. This is like, that is the best. Like, I can't think of a better way right now to get that light and pass it forward. Yeah. What about you?
A lot of it has to do with, if I didn't do this thing, I'd be dead right now. There's no question. But my oldest asked me one time, he said, why do you speak and why do you do what you do? And I said, and I mean this, if I don't, I waste everything you went through. I waste your pain. I ripped apart a family. And so if I can get out here, if I could do things to help, I'm all about it. It's given me a life again. I don't know how to even say, it's so fun. It's so nice for me to work with first responders, to see that darkness that they're in. And the coolest thing is when the light switches back. It's pretty awesome. But, without this thing, without therapy, I'm not sitting here. My kids don't have, I thought my kids would be better off if I was dead. Yeah. That's the mindset that we get into. I'll just be out of here. They don't have to deal with me. I'm a piece of shit, whatever. But it's not, and one thing that I tell people, you're not bad trying to get good. You're sick trying to get better. There's a big difference.
I like that.
And, addiction, all that, there's certain things that we do, we're still responsible for. But it's about learning how to change. Yeah. I'm never going to be perfect. I don't pretend to be. Right. But I didn't drink a bottle of whiskey today. So let's start there. There you go. But yeah, it's just, seeing what my kids went through. And now, because we've been very open with my boys about addiction and stuff like that. So it's actually given me a good, topic to talk about with my sons, because they're teenagers, So,
I mean, both of y'all again just hit on the topic of post-traumatic growth. Like, you've grown from this, you're helping others grow, but there's a purpose there, right? Like, it's like, because how many people today? I mean, I think it's safe to say that this week there will be a law enforcement. Somebody's going to take their own life. Oh, sure. That person, was struggling with things that other people may never understand. But, I appreciate you guys, man. Yeah. Because I like what you said, man. Like, I'm not the first person to manage a wellness program. I won't be the last. And I know my role. Like, I can probably retire in about 5 years. Somebody was way before me. There'll be people after me. Same with you guys. But we each have a part in this, right? And there's people that are watching this today who can do a couple of things. They could take from this and they can grow. They maybe have the courage to get help, to reach out. And I get it. Like, there may be somebody watching this who lives in rural Montana, or, maybe they live in a city where there's not that many resources. We can help them find those places, right? There's the national FOP. One of my friends, her name's Sherry Martin. She has a database, and it's her mission to find culturally competent clinicians. It's a lot of C's there. And sometimes they're not in every city. Sometimes they may not be.
Yeah.
But and it goes back to what you said. Both of you guys have said this. I would like to watch a tape of myself. I don't record myself, but I would love to watch a tape of myself 19 years ago when I had no damn idea what I was doing. I know that one. First time I sat down with the cop, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I still don't, right? I will never understand what you guys go through. But it's so imperative to have somebody that respects the police, tries to understand the police, is compassionate, wants to help, wants to connect. And so those people are out there. And so if you're in rural, Idaho, you might have to do a Zoom meeting, but that's better than sitting and struggling in silence.
Silence, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we really appreciate you too. Yeah. We've had the greatest respect for you and everyone that is in your position across the country.
No brainer.
Same to you guys. Appreciate what y'all are doing.
So one of the perks of owning my own apparel company is I can design stuff whenever I want. So I made a T-shirt for you.
Oh my gosh!
And it actually it wasn't planned this way, but you asking that last question was perfect, because the design on the back, I put a lantern, so that's that light passing it forward.
That's
and then
really cool.
I put the sound wave in there for the
dude.
podcast.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Wow.
Thank you for being brave enough to come on.
No, it's easy.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
If there's anything else you wanted to talk about, we can talk about it, and I can edit it in. Yeah.
I know it's like the first responders or officers, but what about first responders in general, like firefighters and?
We're blessed there, because for a long time we did all first responders, DEC, like, so the dispatchers, fire department, sheriff's department, police department, and man, it was sad, to use a sad word. We would go to conferences on the West Coast, and the fire departments in LA, California, all those places, they had incredible wellness programs, and our fire department didn't, and so it took our fire department a long time, but now they have their own, which is awesome. You talking about, I'll be careful how I say this, because I haven't said my city, but being in meetings with our police department and our fire department, because our fire department was like, oh, tell us what you're doing. And our police leaders were like, hey, yeah, we have a great wellness program. This is David, and this is his team. They're doing great stuff. And the fire guys were like, nah, man, we don't need this. It was like old school, like 1950 stuff. And we were saying, like, what do you do when the fire department shows up and a kid is burned beyond recognition? What do you do when you show up? There had been an incident that week where there was a crash, and the fire department and the police department are on the same scene. And the person that was in the crash is, what is it called? Not the stretcher, but was it when you roll them to the police car? Like, you put them on a gurney.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
Got it.
You can tell I'm not a first responder. They're taking him from the crash on this gurney to the ambulance. Dude jumps off of it, runs across the interstate, and gets smoked. This happened like a couple years ago. And so immediately the police sergeant calls us like, hey, we need to set up a debrief. This is pretty gnarly. Absolutely. So that came up in the meeting, and one of the fire guys was like, wait a minute.
What about us?
No, it was the exact opposite. He's like, do you want us to shut down our whole unit? He's like, do you think I'm going to shut down my whole station to have guys talk about it? And I was like, yes, sir. And he's like, we can't do that. And I said, well, what's the alternative? And he goes, we debrief ourselves. And I said, sometimes that's true. Sometimes y'all will debrief yourself. But I remember I remember driving back home. I was like, oh my God. That was, I can't speak for the entire department.
Right.
But there was that thinking of like, we don't need that.
It was just very closed-minded because you could come up with a way for, even if everyone at once couldn't go, you could find a way for people to get
and
debriefed.
if the bell goes off, the alarm goes off, then any clinician or any peer supporter is going to say, hey, we'll catch you guys later.
Yeah.
But don't tell me you guys don't have a moment where y'all are sitting around eating and we can, you know what I'm saying? We can
find some time.
But I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, fire, police, sheriff, people work in jails, they need the same kind of services.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah, no, that's a good question.
Y'all are awesome, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming. This has been great.